You know, all of us come here each day because we want to find life. You know, and so you remember Jesus saying, if you lose your life, you'll find it. And leave it to human beings to kind of focus on the wrong end of things. You know, we go, oh gosh, suffering, death, pain, denial, losing. We forget that this section comes from a place where Peter says to Jesus, well, I'm not going to let you get killed. And he says, get behind me, Satan. Remember that one? And so he says, you're not thinking like God. And so the point here is that if we think like God, we'll start to see things in a different way. And if we see things differently, we will find life. But a lot of times, you know, we've endured hard things, and it's understandable that we deny, that we defend, that we protect ourselves from sometimes of our past. And yet, you know, we want to find life, and we want to show up to the correct version of ourselves as God sees us. I remember I was at a university some years ago in an evening, and I was speaking to a class, and I brought a homie with me, a guy around 30. And he said during his part of the presentation that he had run away from home at 9. And during the question and answer, a young woman said, why'd you run away from home at 9? And he said, I just was tired of listening to my parents. So on the way home, I said, you know, remember that question? The woman said, why did you run away from home at 9? He said, yeah. Can you remember your answer? He said, yeah. Well, what did you say to her? I said, I ran away from home at 9 because my mom was beating my ass. I said, no, actually, no, you didn't say that. You said, because I was tired of listening to my parents. And he was shocked. He said, really, I said that? I said, yeah. Have you ever met your father? No. And it's interesting how we see things, you know, how we defend and we protect and we deny. And yet we're being offered life if we just think like God does, which leads us to seeing differently. Years ago, when I was locking the door at the end of the day at 1848 East 1st Street, a homie walked up to me named Johnny. And I know this will come as a surprise to you, but he said, hey, can you kick me down with 20 bones? And he said, you know, I haven't even ate in like 3 days, he said, sort of exaggerating. And I said, well, my wallet's on Echale, so I don't have any money right now, so get in the car, let's go to Food for Less, see if I can trick the ATM out of giving me some fatty on. So we go over there, he's kind of a knucklehead, into his neighborhood, kind of provocative. And so he's in the car, and I say, hey, you stay here, because in my mind I'm thinking, if we go into Food for Less, we run into people, he's going to be a knucklehead, so you never know who you're going to run into. So I said, stay here. So I start to walk away from the car, and suddenly I heard this muffled, hey! And I turned around, and he's making señales, the keys to the car, the radio. I said, oh, hell no. I said, chale. Then I make the prayers, you know, the hands, and I go, pray. And he rolls his eyes, and he makes the prayer sign with his hands, and very exaggerated with a cara de santucha. And so I started to walk away, and I turned around again, and he was still in the prayer pose, which made me laugh. So I tricked the ATM out of $20, and I came back, and something had happened in the car. I don't really know exactly. It was like, I handed him the $20. I said, you prayed, didn't you? And he just nods, very quiet, very calm, very peaceful. So I started to drive him home, and I said, how do you see God? And he said, that's my dog right there. Where would I be without him? And God, how does he see you? I'm driving, and he's silent, and I get to the red light. I turn and look at him, and he's rested his head on the headrest, and one lone tear is escaping down his cheek. And he says, God thinks I'm feeling. Which means could not be even one bit better. Of course, all of us could be happier, but none of you could be even one bit better. Think like God does. then you'll see things differently. And then you will find life.